You think the Palestinians are split as well, though? I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu has his own conflicts within the Likud and with the other coalition partners, especially the foreign minister, but so is it with the Palestinian community. Fatah and Hamas are not exactly on the same page.
But we are seeing early indications whereby Hamas is getting close to Fatah. You know, Hamas.
So they are moving towards Fatah.
They are moving to Fatah, yes, because also they're seeing there's no hope from what they're doing. They're being strangled right now in Gaza.
Right.
You know, Gaza is a very small strip that really is being strangled completely by Israel. So I think that Israel gives good indications that it's willing to do peace. I think there's no choice but for Hamas is to subscribe to that peaceful process and be involved with Fatah.
So you're also urging them that they should take certain things out of their charter, and they should make clear that when the, as they describe, the occupation ends, the resistance will end. That Hamas is prepared to recognize Israel's right to exist and also not want to.
Well, I'll go further than that. The Arab League, when they met in Lebanon, I think 2000 or 2002, they unanimously, 22 countries approved the presence of Israel, approved the fact to have to normalize relations between Israel and the Arab world. So this goes beyond Hamas and Fatah. The whole Arab countries approved that condition on having peace with Israel, between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, I know that, but Hamas, as you know, has a different attitude about Israel than Fatah does, and Abu Mazen. You know.
Yeah, this idea of throwing Israel in the sea, this is a myth. This has to be extracted
from any charter. Then why don't they change? Then why don't you recommend, and why doesn't Saudi Arabia recommend and urge the Hamas to change?
We can recommend, you know, till
the cows come home, is an American expression.
It's not going to help. I think the stronger party in the conflict between Israel and Palestine is Israel. Israel has to take the first move, really. And
Israel has to take the first move. What move would that be?
Move to decide that you want peace.
Yeah.
We want peace, and we're willing to go the extra mile, not to procrastinate and delay the process year after year.
And the Arab countries in Palestine and the Palestinians are prepared to realize that there are some settlements that have to be there, even though they are beyond the 67 border, and they will be compensated by other lands that the Palestinians will gain.
I think this has to be part and parcel of a settlement. But I'll quote you what Mr. Abu Mazen told me, who is the president of Palestine right now in the West Bank. I asked him, what are you willing to accept? He said, I'm just willing to sit down with them. I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to have some adjustments in the borders between us and them. And as for Jerusalem, there are many alternatives. You can have Jerusalem being the capital city of two countries, or have it internationalized. So really, Netanyahu is exaggerating the problem, and because he can't afford to have peace.
Prime Minister Netanyahu sat right here at this table when he came to the United Nations and said, you know, we want to talk to them. We've asked them to come talk and come negotiate. Instead, they went to the UN and said, give us statehood. Now, their argument is that they're prepared to talk.
I mean, they're prepared to talk, but the talk is being going on for how many years right now? Since 30, 40, 50 years. Well, but I know Mazen now is more than ready to have peace. But I think the next move has to come from Netanyahu, and if not, I think the United States has to reprioritize the Middle East and put it top priority. I know Mr. Obama has so many issues: budget deficit, trade deficit, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, and healthcare, their elections.
Yeah, okay.
But I think it has to reprioritize that and put it on top.
Clearly, the election will probably mean nothing will be happening between now and November. How do you see the United States today in the world after the economic collapse, after the Arab Spring, after a whole range of after the rise of China and the East?
Well, the impression is that the strength and the power of the United States is waning. It's not as strong as before. Clearly, the economic crisis also deepened the wound in the United States. Because right now, the United States is very much becoming isolated and less involved in the...
Isolated?
Yes, I mean, look, they're not involved, for example, from the point of view of the Palestinian-Israeli crisis. There's no involvement at all. There's parallels completely there. They're not involved there at all. We see, for example, now the pulling out from Iraq, although it was good politically for the administration locally. But what will be your position right now if you have the civil war over there, if the Kurds fight with the Sunnis and Shiites?
Right.
I mean, you pulled out there after spending $2 trillion.
Well, are you suggesting they should not have pulled out?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you should have at least some troops to stay over there, at least, because right now...
Well, they prepared. They were asked by the government of Iraq to leave.
Yeah,
they were prepared to do that if they'd been asked to do that.
You handed Iraq to Iran just like that. الملكي is very much pro-Iran. After spending $2 trillion, you handed over the whole Iraq to Iran just like on golden plate.
But we couldn't stay if the government didn't want us to stay.
Well, I mean, the whole thing was not managed properly from the beginning.
You see Iran as the principal rival, as the Turks do, as the Saudis do, as the Qatar does, I think, to everyone in the region. Why do you fear Iran so much?
It's not a matter of feeling. It's a matter, if you look at many of the problems, look at Bahrain, look at in Saudi Arabia, look at the support, for example, of Hezbollah in Lebanon, look at the support of Hamas also. I mean, we have proofs that Iran is also helping and supporting Hamas. So Hamas, Hezbollah, even in Yemen also, they're involved with the Houthis.
The fear is they're sending them weapons and missiles.
Yeah, so really they're involved all over the place. So you can see the hands and of Iran all over the place. So we're not fearing them, but we just want them to get off the back of the Arab countries, because they have enough problems in Iran also.
If nothing else succeeds in convincing Iran not to build a nuclear weapon or have the capacity to build a nuclear weapon, would like to see the United States and Israel do something even militarily. Is that your opinion of the opinion of Arab leaders?
I think that the Arab leaders, including Saudi Arabia, would like to have a region to be nuclear free for sure.
Right.
Definitely. Now the question, were all the channels exhausted by the United States and the UN? I don't believe so. I believe sanctions have to be tightened, and right now the United States successfully was able to get Europe on board, which is very important.
On the oil embargo.
Yes, which is very important, because this is they can strangle Iran economically. Right. I think this should be given some time, and I think that the threat of military participation, like Panetta did, the Defense Secretary of the United States.
Right.
He explicitly said that in his last interview, the threat should be there.
Right.
So I think you should have the carrot and the stick. But I think also should engage with them in a dialogue.
Other people have said to me, including most recently an interview I did last week with the Prime Minister of Qatar, that he thought there ought to be direct negotiation between Iran and the United States. Is that a good idea?
I saw that interview, and you should negotiate and bargain and discuss, and then as a last resort, you should have the military option ready. Remember, Iran still remembers very vividly what happened to their neighbor to the west, Iraq also.
Right.
Remember how the United States intervened very heavily then, and then overthrew Saddam Hussein. So they remember that also. So they're not stupid enough to understand that the United States could not really overtake them militarily.
But I hear you saying that if everything fails, this oil embargo fails, and everything else fails, and negotiations fails, then the military option ought to be used, because above all, it is unacceptable for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, because they would destabilize the entire region.
Yes. Military option should not be taken off the table, for sure. The threat of military action should stay there, because Iran will only understand this tough language and military language at the end of the day.
And should it be used, though, if everything else fails?
Well, I think that there is hope from having discussion with Iran, whereby you give them some recognition, and remember, the embargo is causing a lot of pain inside Iran. Their currency was devalued by almost 60% since this whole thing began, and this is going to be worse also. So the situation in Iran internally is very, very, very dire and deep and bad.
And what do you make of the conflict between the Ayatollah and the president?
I don't believe there's a conflict. I believe that Ahmadinejad is a tool of the supreme leader,
or the revolutionary forces, or whoever it might be.
He is a puppet there. He really cannot do anything unless that leader decides what he wants to do.
Look at what happened in Tunisia. Moderate Islamists did well. Look at what happened in Egypt. Muslim Brotherhood and the Salafists did well. We don't know what's going to happen in other places, but are we going through a period in which we have to witness and experience Islamist governments having their shot at running countries?
And not only that, I'll include also Morocco. Morocco, the Muslims won.
No, you mentioned that.
So you have Muslims in Morocco, you have Nahda in Tunis, you have now in Egypt. But remember, what's common among all those, the three, they are really moderate Muslims. For example, the Salafis, the real extreme wing of the Muslim party in Egypt, they became second. And most likely
25% or so,
yeah, they will not be allied with them. So I think there's no choice but to give a chance for the Islamists, because they won through elections. At the end of the day, that's the will of the people.
Yeah, and in some cases the argument is made that this is a good thing because being in power might moderate even their views if they were extreme.
And we see that already in Morocco, in Tunis, and in Egypt. All the language we hear from them is positive and moderated. It's not extreme at all. Actually, the first thing that the Muslim brothers that won the election, the majority in Egypt, they say we're not going to cooperate with the extreme Muslims. They're going to go more with the liberal parties, like it happened in Tunis also.
When you look at the possibilities, except for Syria. I mean, do you believe that the Arab Spring is really the Arab Spring and not the Arab Winter?
You know, I really hate to use the word Arab Spring because when spring you don't have this bloodshed and all these evolutions. It was really it's very painful, and I think that many Arab leaders are really getting the lesson and trying to reform and change. And I believe that King Mohammed of Morocco is really a role model of what other Arab states could do and fast.
What do you see as the role of Turkey?
Well, Turkey is filling a vacuum in the Arab world. You've seen,
even though it's not an Arab state.
Exactly. And remember, Turkey was in the Arab world, was all the way from Qatar, from Iraq to North Africa.
Right.
So clearly, I know Erdogan. He's my friend. I know him very well. But he's filling a vacuum. You know, Egypt is busy with its internal situation. Iraq is busy with internal situation also, and Saudi Arabia is alone right now, trying to assist here and there. So there's a big vacuum. And
Turkey has filled that vacuum.
Well, they try to fill it up, but see, the Arab world still looks at Turkey with hesitancy because they colonized our region for almost 500 years. And it was not the best era in our history.
And do you believe that is what some people believe, that Prime Minister Erdogan, as you know, has been on this program many times, and you watch this program, that he has ambition to do that, to restore that kind of Turkish primacy?
Well, I think it's built in. The Ottoman Empire was a big force to be reckoned with, and they controlled the Arab world for almost half a century, as I told, 500 years. So there's no doubt that there's an element of what you said now of being true.
Fear that he may want to restore the Ottoman Empire.
No, I mean, to restore that's far-fetched, obviously, but at least to really to re-establish the hegemony or the control or the presence of Turkey in the Arab world. For sure, it's there. It's very clear.
What do you think of his relationship with Iran?
Well, his relationship with Iran, is a neighboring country, and he's engaging with them. And I think that his philosophy and strategy is that if all doors are closed for Iran, at least there's one path to go through Turkey. So he'd like to be a mediator in a way.
So that's a good thing then.
I think it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
You don't want Iran to capitulate completely also, because then they will just act wildly.
Yeah, that's the fear of Iran, is it not?
Brzezinski was on your show, and he said, don't let them capitulate, because they will act crazy.
Yes.
What they could say to them. Yes.
I'm impressed that you watched the program, so thank you very much. So there is also this, with respect to the region, Qatar. What role are they playing?
Well, Qatar is a small nation, but
with a large TV network.
No, but also with huge wealth. Also, the GDP per capita in Qatar is very, very high. It's even the highest in the world, higher than Norway. Also,
it's clear to me that they want to play a bigger, smarter, more influential role in the region.
No, I think the chairmanship of Qatar, of the Arab League at the stage, was very instrumental in getting the Syrian issue at the forefront and getting it internationally and getting it to the UN.
And coming to the United Nations and making the argument.
No doubt. I know Sheikh Hamad very well.
Let me turn to the global economy. How do you see the global economy today?
Well, the global economy faced major crisis in 2008 with the collapse of the banking industry in the United States. And clearly, the United States took some decisions to safeguard that situation, and somehow it was stabilized. But we're seeing right now something more serious, which is the sovereign risk of certain countries, especially in Europe right now. So, and this is really impacting the whole world economy. And also the internal bickering in the United States between the Republicans and Democrats also not helping finding a major and final resolution for the annual debt.
For the United States to get its own economic house in order.
Exactly. All right. Because also the United States economic situation is not very good.